Hello student, I'm Mr. Leung. So after we talk about the plant propagation, the vegetative propagation, we move on to the next biotechnology, which is in-vitro fertilization. So apart from this word in-vitro fertilization, I would like to introduce another word, in-vivo fertilization. Okay, so in-vivo and in-vitro fertilization, they come from Latin. So for the in-vitro word, okay, it means in grass, and in-vivo, it means within the living, within the organism. So actually in-vitro fertilization, it can be regarded as the fertilization taking place outside the human body, or at least outside the organisms. Okay, and for the in-vivo fertilization, obviously it means it takes place inside the organism. So at least you get familiar with those words first, in-vitro and in-vivo fertilization. In this video, there will be 3 parts. The first part, I'm going to talk about the questions, and the second part, I will talk about the cause of the infertility and also some treatments for infertility. And the third part, the last part, will be some ethical issues raised for the different types of biotechnology. So for the first part, we are going to talk about the in-vitro fertilization. Some couples, they are unable to have children due to problems in their reproductive systems, such as low sperm counts or blockage of oviducts. So at least from this sentence, you know that the problems do not only come from the female or only come from the male. Okay, both of them. Okay, they may be responsible for those situations, okay, of the infertility, unable to have children naturally. The procedures, okay, or the flow chart is that hormones are used to stimulate the development of several follicles at the same time. So remember, several follicles, but not only one, not only two, but several follicles at the same time, in order to collect over from the ovaries directly, like at least. Okay, we are not just going to collect the eggs, or 1 egg or 2 eggs, but several eggs. But what is the reason behind that? Okay, you need to know it. And we take out the eggs and put them in the petri dish, okay, for the culture. Okay, so we need to add some nutrient medium for the sperm and also for the egg, for them to move and also to keep them alive. So I want you to think about that nutrient medium. Of course, it contains nutrients, okay, but what is the form? Okay, is it compressed or is it simple? Okay, to supply those nutrients for the eggs or for the sperm. For example, do we supply the protein or amino acids to the sperm and eggs? Do we supply starch or glucose to the sperm or eggs? So which form? Simple form or compressed form? And the key question is that, do you expect the sperm and the egg, they can really digest those compressed form into simple form, okay, after digestion, and then they can absorb? No, definitely not. So what we are going to supply for them should be the simple form, glucose, amino acid, something like this, but not starch, not protein directly. And also for the nutrient medium, don't only focus on the nutrients, but also focus on the medium, the overall medium, the pH, the temperature, and also the water potential of the medium. We need to control it very, very well. Otherwise, the sperm and the egg, okay, they may die easily. And after the fertilization, luckily it takes place. So we obtain the zygote, and the zygote, they will undergo the mitotic cell division to form the embryo. Okay, so remember, recall the importance of development from zygote to embryo, because only the embryo, they can undergo implantation. So that's the embryo, they will be transferred to the uterus, but not the zygote, because the zygote cannot undergo implantation. That's something we learned in the natural one, natural reproduction. After the fertilization in the upper part of the oviduct, once you have the zygote will undergo the mitotic cell division 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, and then it goes to the uterus. Of course, at the same time, it develops into embryo already, and then for the implantation. And the second part is that the embryo implants, normal pregnancy may follow, and the test tube baby is born. So we know that actually it's not really a test tube, okay, but a petri dish. And the excess embryo produced in the procedure will be frozen for later implantation or destroyed after several years. So that's why that's the first ethical issues, because we destroy the life, because they are embryo. Okay, and embryo, they are potentially a human being after all. So that's why some people they may challenge this technology, is that you destroy the embryos, that means you are the murderer, okay, to murder the embryo or the future baby. And that's the good thing, okay, and 5 million babies, they have been born with the help of the in vitro fertilization. And for the question 1, besides the a possible cause of the infertility, any other possible cause? So remember that the 3 key processes for pregnancy: ovulation, fertilization, and implantation. One of those stages or processes, okay, they cannot undergo normally or naturally, okay, so somehow the couple, they cannot give birth, okay, to a baby. And for the question 2, what is the purpose of stimulating the development of several follicles at the same time, okay, in the IVF? I give you the first mark first. So more ovum can be collected from the ovaries. That's the first mark. So what is the importance of getting more eggs? That's the reason behind we stimulate several follicles to develop into egg, but not just 1 follicle or 2 follicles, but many follicles. And for the question 3, regarding the site of the fertilization, how is the normal pregnancy different from the IVF? So remember that you need to recall the site of fertilization in both cases of normal pregnancy and IVF, because we need a complete comparisons, okay, not only for the site of fertilization in normal pregnancy or only the site of fertilization for IVF. We need both cases. And the question 4 suggests 2 ethical issues raised by the use of IVF. So actually there are mainly 3 types of ethical issues. The first part is talking about life and death, it's talking about artificial or natural, and it's talking about the religion and the autonomy, okay, for the people. So that's the first part. For the second part, we are going to talk about the causes of the infertility. So remember the 3 key processes of the pregnancy: ovulation, fertilization, and implantation. If we can block one of those processes, so the woman cannot get pregnant. But the point is that we cannot only blame the woman, okay, for the infertility. Although these 3 processes, they take place in the female body. But how about for the male's responsibility? Okay, for example, if the male, they cannot produce the sperm properly or normally, for example, the poor sperm motility or the structure of the sperm, okay, there are some abnormal structure. For example, the tails are just too short, or the neck is just too short to contain just very small amount of the mitochondria, not enough energy for the sperm to swim. So somehow fertilization, it cannot occur at all. And also the blockage of the sperm transport, for example, the sperm duct or the urethra. So that's why the sperm, they cannot be ejaculate, okay, outside of the male body to the female reproductive organs, and also the erection and ejaculation problems as well. So that's the male factors. And for the female factors, ovulation and damage to the oviduct or the uterus, somehow maybe the blockage of the oviduct. And also some example will be like this: the uterine lining is just too thin for the embryo to implant, to embed itself to the uterine lining, because it's just too thin. And also the abnormal cervical mucus secretion, it just prevents the sperms from reaching the egg, because the mucus is very sticky, okay, to trap the sperm to and do not allow them to swim for the egg at all. And for the treatments for the infertility, apart from the in vitro fertilization, there are many types treatments for them. For example, the hormonal treatments. Somehow the woman, okay, the eggs, the follicle, okay, they are not sensitive to the hormones at all. So that's why we can provide the woman some hormonal treatments, get some fertility drugs to stimulate the ovulation or the thickening of the uterine lining for implantation, right? And also the surgery, okay, for example, for the man, if he performed the vasectomy before and he would like to have baby again, so vasectomy reversal can be performed to rejoin the sperm duct back together, or the similar process, okay, similar reversal surgery for the oviduct can also be done. And also the artificial insemination, artificial done by human being, put inside, and semen, okay, you remember what is semen, okay, that's the fluid, okay, containing the seminal fluid and the sperms, okay. So actually the whole process, that means introduction of the sperm into a female's uterus or cervix for the purpose of the achieving a pregnancy through the in-vitro fertilization, that means inside the female body. So actually this process is just imitate the sexual intercourse, the process of sexual intercourse. So normally for human and also for the cow, for the cattle, okay, we can also perform the artificial insemination. So that's why there are many types or kinds of treatments for the infertility. Okay, after we try all these methods and somehow the couple they cannot get a baby, somehow they will try the in-vitro fertilization as the last means. Okay, and for the ethical issues on biotechnology, so remember that the three main aspects, okay, life and death. So for example, in the in-vitro fertilization, we can help the couples with infertile problems, so that's a good thing. But for the bad thing is that we may destroy the excess embryos. And remember that we have the contraceptive pills or the drugs, okay, we need to test with the animals. So somehow if the drugs or the shampoo, okay, they are harmful for the animals, so somehow maybe the rabbit, the mouse, okay, they will die. So somehow some people will fight for the animal rights, okay, and welfare as well. That's the ethical issues. And also for the natural and artificial, normally if you have the baby, give birth to the baby naturally, no one will challenge you. But somehow that's the artificial one, okay, for the in-vitro fertilization. So you can choose the sperm, okay, somehow you can choose the sperm containing the X chromosome or containing the Y chromosome to choose the sex of your baby. So somehow other people will challenge you that there will be an imbalanced sex ratio in the society. And also in some biotechnology, we may even change the genes in the organism. For example, we put some genes in the genes of the fish into the tomato, okay, to make the tomato they can resist the very cold environment, okay. And also the religion versus the autonomy. Okay, somehow the good thing is that the biotechnology, of course, as a parent, we do not want our baby to have any genetic disease. So that's why we would like to remove those disease genes from the baby. Well, that's a very normal idea, and also that's good. But somehow other people will challenge you that are you designing your baby? Or you have you want a baby have the blondie hair, the right skin, okay? How tall is your baby? Perhaps you may be designing your baby, or even you are playing the role of the god. So somehow that's the bad thing, okay? Someone may challenge you, and the good thing is that we are just doing the family planning. No one wants the genetic disease. They continue in our generation to generation. So somehow there's the so-called good or bad, okay? They're fighting with each other. And also the other ethical issues for different types of biotechnology, the GMO, genetically modified organisms, also the cloning, stem cells research, and also the experimental animals. So somehow when we talk about the biotechnology, I would like to introduce this company for you guys, this corporation we call Monsanto. Okay, so this company is quite famous in the industry of biotechnology. But being famous, there are two meanings. Okay, being famous or being infamous, they are also famous, right? So as a science student, okay, if you would like to know more about this company, you can research by yourself, okay? And maybe later, if we get any chance, okay, I shall talk about this company. After all, before we end this video, I would like to share the news of the world's first test tube baby, Louis Brown, okay, to you guys. So at least you know some history, okay, of our advancement of biotechnology. Louis was born in 1978, okay, and that's the photo taken in 2014, 36 years old. So actually, in this interview, okay, for Louis, okay, she told the reporter that her parents, okay, when they decide to have Louis be born by using the in-vitro fertilization, somehow they receive many mails, okay, from the haters. So somehow, for example, this letter, okay, you can see there may be some blood on this letter, and also in this box you can find that it is the broken test tube. Okay, actually, the haters may just want to tell the parents of Louis that you are also the murderer. Okay, and somehow the in-vitro fertilization it will fail. Okay, and it will cost the life. Okay, something like this. And apart from the haters, okay, we can ignore them, but somehow there are many supporters, okay, for her parents, especially from the mother who are unable to have children naturally. So somehow we can see that apart from the biological knowledge, the application, okay, we need to know that for every technology, somehow there may be some pros and cons. So when we are studying biology, don't just think about the technology, okay, or the knowledge, but we also need to move one step forward, okay, to think about the society. How can we improve our society? Okay, somehow you may say that the science or the technology, they are neutral at all. If we can apply it in a good way, it will be very useful, successful to make our world in a better way. But if we use it in a bad way, it will be a disaster to our world. So as a science student, you need to think more, okay, not only for the knowledge, but also for the society. So there will be two video clips following. One is about the in-vitro fertilization, and the other one is about the artificial insemination. So you can take a look first, and if you want to know more, you can do research by yourself. And if you have any questions, okay, you can leave it in a message box. Bye bye.